We're live.
Hey, good evening. I'm going to call the regular meeting to order. It's now 7 o'clock. Requirements of sunshine law have been met. This meeting was advertised in Burlington County Times on January 6, 2023. Electronic notice was given to the NJC 5:39-1.5. We will now start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now have a moment of silence. Roll call.
Committeewoman Berkeley.
Present.
Committeeman Carr.
Present.
Committeewoman Mungo.
Present.
Committeewoman Wright.
Present.
Mayor Henley.
Present.
Also present, Township Solicitor, Township Administrator, Acting Police Chief, Fire EMS Chief.
We will now do the presentation of swearing in a police officer, Dylan Rilos. Did I say that right? I should be better. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people, that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all duties of patrolman according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations, patrolman.
Strange. Notice these things are peaceful.
Hey, how are you?
Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Welcome to West Hampton.
Presentation Resolution 131-23, resolution appointing police officer Dylan Rilos. Do we have a motion?
Motion. Second, Berkeley.
Roll call.
Berkeley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Mungo.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. If you guys wish, you can be excused or you can hang in. We welcome you to stay, but we understand if you want to celebrate out in the lobby. We'll be out in a little bit. We'll now complete a proclamation. We're going to proclaiming the month of September as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. And the proclamation reads, whereas this year approximately 288,300 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in the United States alone. 1 man every 2 minutes, and roughly 34,700 will die from this
year from this disease, about 3,500 more than 2020, which is one man every 15 minutes. And whereas in New Jersey, an estimated 9,460 new cases of prostate cancer will be diagnosed, and estimated 730 deaths will occur in 2023. And whereas men with relatives, fathers, brothers, son, with a history of prostate cancer are twice likely to develop the disease. And whereas prostate cancer is most commonly diagnosed cancer in American men, and the third leading cause of cancer death behind lung and colon cancer. And whereas 1 in 8 men are diagnosed with prostate cancer in their life, and 1 in 6 African American men will develop prostate cancer in their lifetime. Overall, African American men are 1.7 times more likely to be diagnosed with and 2.1 times more likely to die from prostate cancer than white men. And whereas veterans who are exposed to herbicides like Agent Orange are at increased risk for developing prostate cancer and are more likely to have an aggressive form of the disease. And whereas educating regarding prostate cancer and early detection strategies is critical to saving lives, preserving and protecting our families, as well as the economic and social burden of the prostate cancer is huge on families. And whereas if caught early, prostate cancer has a 5-year survival rate of nearly 100%. However, for late-stage prostate cancer, the 5-year survival rate is 31%. And whereas more men will be diagnosed in 2023 at a later stage because of delayed screenings and treatment due to COVID-19, and whereas all men are at risk of prostate cancer, and we encourage the citizens of West Hampton to increase the importance of prostate awareness and screening. Now and therefore be it resolved, I, Mayor Sandy Henley, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2023 to be Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in West Hampton Township.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Trying to turn it off.
This is dated on the 5th of September 2023. We will now begin our workshop. First is about the American Legion building. So the American Legion received a grant of $20,000, and we talked about, they came and asked us if we would help them to finish the work on their building. I think that their building, part of $20,000, they have I was going to call it a stage. It looks like a stage, but it's a porch in front, and the concrete is severely dipped down, so that's something that's supposed to get fixed, as well as the roof. The interior of the building is pretty bad, and the appliances in there are pretty old. So I think that one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and obviously have the residents' input, is, us completing and rehauling the American Legion building. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
It asked for 20,000, I believe.
I'm sorry?
I believe they asked for 20,000.
No, the 20,000 is what they have for the grant. That's how much the grant is. I don't know that they asked for a number because they haven't gotten an estimate or a quote to even know how much it will cost. Sure.
Terrence Brown, 9 Pine Tree Drive. The township owns that building, correct?
Yes.
So as township would be considered the landlord. So what responsibility do the township have, for repairing that building? Because I know sometimes with grants, they have, language that says that, hey, if you invest in this amount of money into thing. It has to be a X amount of years that you occupy the building and things like that. So I'm thinking more from a landlord perspective, like what responsibility do the township has to make sure that they're in a building that's safe, not leaking, pores not cracked? Because if one of our homes were like that, code enforcement would be citing us and all that type of stuff. So, I've went through the building before too, and I agree with you, it does need a lot of work. But I think that the township should have an obligation to make sure that building is, in safe standing for all of the people who are entering it. And, whatever we could do as a township, I think that should be, done. Hopefully you guys will make that decision.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I've had an opportunity to visit the location. I agree it's unserviceable and there are some unsafe conditions. I agree with dedicating funds that would not jeopardize our strategic positioning.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Audrey Kirster, 36 Dover Road, West Hampton. My husband's a member of a lot of organizations, including the American Legion, and I know different organizations have a lot of fundraisers to improve their buildings. They seek out other companies to help them get grants. We just did that out in Medford. Home Depot was very kind to us. They helped us with the floor. They might want to look into that before we start giving our money away.
Certainly. I think that is, I've known like Home Depot and some of the other bigger companies that may be able to donate supplies. I know that's something we looked at with previous projects, but that is something that I definitely agree with. Because I think for the American Legion building, I think that that's not a heavy lift. I think that there could be a donation of that. Now, I know that from looking at this before, this isn't something that we talked about just this year, that we've had we've had different unions that would donate their time as well to be able to help to cut some of the costs. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I had a question. If we do give them a certain amount of money, let's take 27, because I do remember that, where would that come from in our budget?
I would say that we would take it from our community redevelopment fund.
Do we have money in the community development fund? I thought we had spent that all.
No, we had $250,000 that was donated from a warehouse. We used $22,000 approximately to redo the basketball court, so there is money left there. Obviously, I don't think it's a project that we would spend a certain amount of money. I mean, $30,000 to their $20,000, I think would be plentiful. But I mean, that's a guess. I think that we don't burn through that, because that's when we're done with that, it's over, and we wanted to be able to utilize. We wanted to hit a lot of points throughout the community, right? So that's what my thought would be, because that money's been donated for the community, and the American Legion building does fall into that category, I believe.
I agree, the grant was for community enhancement, and this definitely would enhance that. But I think we need to put a limit, and then if they need more, they would need to come back, tell us what they have done and what they need to have done.
Certainly.
The grant is not for our budget, it's for special things like this. So we could not use that for our budgeted items.
What do you mean? I'm sorry. Which grant are we talking about?
I'm talking about the community grant.
From the warehouse?
Yes.
I agree. Let me ask you this. How much do you think that we would set aside just based on the conversation? I'll get right to you, man.
I thought last time they asked for 20,000, and then I asked them how much Mr. Kim had given them, and they said 20. So if we have 20,000 in the grant for community enhancement, and that is what this is for, that's what I would suggest. They would have 40,000, which certainly is more for a roof and some things, and then if they needed more, we would have to sit down and talk to them.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I think that, so Congressman Kim, the money the grant that they gave them is specific to how they can use it. So, for example, There's been a conversation previously, right, about what we were going to do, but we didn't want to touch the property because we didn't want to destroy the grant, right? Because the grant is for, we know that it's for the roof, we know that it's for the porch, and then there's some other specifics that are involved. So if we jump in and started fixing stuff previously, then that might ruin the grant. So we kind of just laid back until the grant kicks in, and then we could add additional funds to it. I'm sorry.
Right, but we could tonight decide to set aside a certain amount of money for that after they use the Congressman's grant.
I think that, and this is just my opinion, I think that we kind of put the cart before the horse. So let them get an estimate, and then let them see what they can get donated, right, from the different places, and then we put those numbers together. Because, hey, listen, maybe we say 20,000, but maybe it only costs 15, right? So in all fairness, to some of these properties, right, that the township has owned that they leased out, people have kind of made their way to do their enhancements. So we are going to help them with this enhancements, but we want to make sure that they, have some skin in the game, which I've talked to Renita, and they don't mind doing those things, but to make some phone calls and see if they can get some things donated. And I'll be more than happy to try to make some phone calls and see if I can get some people to donate their time.
That's fine.
Perfect. Yes, ma'am.
Can I have one more question?
Of course.
Is that building has been there for a long time. I've been in it. We've done the haunted house. It's a wonderful fundraiser for our townships. Is that under the historic building?
No,
It does not have to meet any of those requirements.
it does not.
Okay, thank you, because that's a whole other ballgame.
Oh, yeah, you're telling me. You're not lying.
Mr. Mayor, I think that it's the responsibility of the township. I think them getting grant money is the icing on the cake. But, the township being legally, obligated or legally can be held accountable because it's their property, I think, it should be the township fixing the building. And anything that they add on top of it is, icing on the cake they can donate to the fact. Because those, like you said, those grants have requirements. So next thing you know, the grant could be like, what if they up and decide to, move out of this American Legion building and consolidate their program 10 years from now? Does the $20,000 that that grant put into it, what happens to that money? And I've worked on grants that have had those type of in the language that, hey, you can't move out of it, you can't do this and this and that. But I think it's the responsibility of the township because it's their building. If somebody falls and get hurt, township, the ones that got to eat that. So while we're up here looking like trying to rob Peter to pay Paul and say, hey, let them get some money over here, the township is the one that's really going to be held accountable because it's their building that they're occupying in an unsafe condition. And, while we're saying, hey, well, they may be taking the unsafe situations and being careful, we are acknowledging that the building is unsafe and it needs these repairs. So I think it's the township's ability to be more proactive and say, hey, let's get these roofs fixed, just like we did with the township building, getting new carpet and things like that in it. We should be looking at those buildings, not only the American Legion, the firehouse, all of these things. We need to look at trying to repair these and set money aside so these repairs can be done instead of, thinking that it's the occupant's responsibility to go out and get money. You don't ask a tenant to, go get a grant so they can cut the grass and put new windows in your house. It's the landlord's responsibility, So that's my comment.
Mr. Rice.
So it's a little bit of a different dynamic. The lease is $1 a month, right? Plus, you have the firehouse over in Rancocas that also their lease is $1 a month, and they've sold hams to upgrade their building. So now it's like I always say about children: if you're going to do for one child, you're going to do for the other, right? So if they're over there selling hams to upgrade their building, right, and then we're just going to dish out money for this, why would they need to sell hams? Because we're just going to come and fix it. So again, to be fair, I'm not saying that we should support them and we can't do what we need to. We're not willing to help them. What I'm saying is that we can't touch the building until the grant starts to operate. If we do, then we won't get the grant, and we'll be paying $40,000 versus $20,000. So the parameters are, right, we have to follow the grant first, and then once they do that, and once they fix those steps, then we can say, all right, let's start this process, right? And here's the thing. Someone like Home Depot, and I don't want to name a business like that, but they not only have the sheetrock and the Udi would know better than me, he's the guy, but they might not have, they don't have those things, but they also have the refrigerator, they also have the dishwasher, they also have the sinks, they have a bunch of those things that they can donate that you're talking about $10,000, $12,000. For the next thing that comes up, now we're a little bit short. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that. My opinion is this, that if you walk through the firehouse over there and you see the upgrade to the kitchen, I'm sure Nancy Berkeley could tell you, who paid for the upgrade to the kitchen? Township didn't pay. So that's just, what I think, my 2 cents. I'm one person. You were going to say, Udi?
I was just going to ask Mr. Wright the nature of the lease. Are township, the Township of West Hampton, indemnified from liability?
I don't have the lease in front of me, but I do believe so that there's the responsibility for the health and safety of the building is on the tenant. They do have insurance, which we maintain, which we check on at least an annual basis, and all of our leases, township's required to be named as an additional insured, and any change in the insurance notification automatically goes to the township.
So do we agree that it's okay for them to get a quote so we know at
Yes,
least what it
can I
costs?
just add some information?
Sure.
Considering the community center, there's 2 groups that use the community center, the Historic Society and the Civic Association, and both have to pay several $1,000s a year for liability, for activity liability and officer liability. So if someone gets hurt, it's the people who, the Civic Association and Historic Society, who have that liability. It's not on to the township. The only thing the township is liable for is one time a tree fell on a roof. So the township had to put on a new roof, but everything else is up to the organization who works there. And it also depends on the lease. What does the lease say? Who's responsible? But I know I spend, as a treasurer of the Civic Association, almost $4,000 a year for liability and officer liability to have Halloween parties with 12 kids. So, thank you.
I would also like to add to what, but I think it is what the lease requires or what the lease says. But also the fact that, grantors, they look at these type of incidents as if you're the leasee of a building and you're filling your responsibility, that right there comes into play when it comes into somebody getting hurt. And also, secondly, I would like to add, I think it's a slippery slope. We cannot legally say that, hey, we're waiting for a grant to start or to take place, because grantors look at that, which I've reviewed grants before, and say, nah, they're waiting for us. This is more for people who need the money and don't have the resources. So us saying that, hey, we're going to sit back and see how much money that they can raise, or if the bake sale produces what for the remodel of a kitchen, while we're letting situations be, I think it's a kind of a step back, and where we need to be kind of moving proactively with the township, because we need to be looking at these buildings are safe, number one. Number two, that people can occupy them and move around and, be in, whatever the reason they're paying, to occupy the building, they need those resources, available to them, and don't need to be worrying about falling, cracks, or, smelling mold and, all these different things. But I do just want to quickly repeat that again. Number one, we cannot say legally that we're waiting for a grant to actually fund.
Is that true, Bob? You're a lawyer.
I have not reviewed the specifics of the federal grant that they entitled to, but my understanding is that those funds have already been committed.
Correct.
And that they have a commitment for the $20,000. My experience in dealing with grant programs is usually the public sector is the lender of last resort. So it is customary to, as you were saying, go out, find the financing that you can privately, and whatever you can't find, then the government will fill the gap, and that's my understanding of what the mayor was saying.
Yeah, so to be fair, I was up there when they came and when they came through, and I was up there with Congressman Kim. When they came to look at the building, I knew about the grant, we signed off on it to help them, and I was up there when the gentleman came to give them an estimate on the roof. I believe also that we had to work with the gentleman to kind of bring the price down and make it fit in the 20,000. So I've been clear and transparent the whole time about what that money is, where that money's supposed to go, and we also looked at the language of the grant to make sure that we stay off that slippery slope. But what's important is I'm protecting the funds of the township and the residents that live here. Right, and I also have relationships. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Carr is a part of it, and he's giving funds to them. So is Mr. Wisniewski. So we've always been involved with them to be able to help them. But it's still the same thing. Like, how did the people in the village who did what they needed to do for that? How would they feel if we just threw money without doing our due diligence? And it's not about safety, because if it was about safety, then listen, that building's been like that for the last 10 years. I haven't seen anybody else there working, except for one person, Alan Hines, is the only person, and he's complained about that building since his wife was elected years ago. And that was my commitment to him, that we would find a way to get the building done. So I'm all the way in. I'm deep in the water with that building.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're not deeply into it. I'm just saying, I know I complained about when I first came here 2 years ago, because when they asked my wife to join it, I felt that it was unsafe for her to be in it, because they was in one side of it. And I was like, and they was like, you can't go this way. And I'm like, what type of environment, you would have when you're occupying a building, you can't, operate in it. So, I'm familiar with the territory. I'm just saying, like, how do we set money aside to prepare township properties before getting to this type of stage? Is that something that the township?
I think that you got to look back. This is not anybody up here. This is not their watch. That building's been like that for quite some time. I would say, and I continue to say this over and over again, this is a really good group, and this group has focused on doing what's best for the township in general. And we've been proactive in trying to do whatever people ask us to do that makes financial sense. So this is something that, to bring up the basketball courts, that didn't just happen that day. That was 2-3 years in the works. The same thing with this American Legion building, right? Like, that's something that we've been working on for years to get done, and it's just coming to fruition. So that's why I had the stage, and I've talked to them. I talked to Bernita. I talked to the people who are in the building and what the expectations were and what we could do to help. And just to be clear, and again, to be transparent, when I'm talking about Home Depot or something, or different companies that may make donations, I'm not saying it's all on them, because in the beginning, if I'm not mistaken, I said I'd be willing to help too.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, listen, your wife wanted to join, you're more than welcome to pick up a paintbrush or come and help, and I know that you will.
Yeah.
So we look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, definitely. I just think that it seems to be a pattern that these township-owned buildings are becoming in these manners, from the American Legion, Firehouse. I mean, you just did work in the police department. Is there a committee that looks at these properties and provide a report to, maybe the administrator or to the township committee saying, hey, these repairs need to be done? Or is the tenant, providing you, a bi-weekly, a yearly report, like saying, hey, the conditions of the buildings? Or maybe it's, somebody from the township is doing a yearly inspection, so that this don't continue to be, a pattern. You got it now, you got to get out of it. But how do you keep it from getting any worse? That's my only comment.
I think that's a fair question, if you don't mind. I'll answer that quickly, but, I think that if you look at the conditions of some of these buildings, you're also talking about how long they've been around, right? Like, I'm sure Chief Ferguson can tell you great stories about how the firehouse was built by residents So eventually, it's gonna be in the position it's gonna be in, right? And how long has it been around for? 1970. Listen, I'm 50, I think. So that's 53 years old, right? Like, it's been there for 53 years. There's gonna have to be maintenance. If you've been to the building down there at the American Legion, that's way older than 53 years old. And then what other building did we name? Well, Terrence, you named, what building did you name? Yeah, I mean, when was this building built? I think that tells you all you need to know. Like, so if you have your house, there's gonna be maintenance that needs to be done within your house. And you fix it as it goes on. Some can be preventative and some you're gonna be proactive with. But I think that the one thing that's important is that we have a committee here that wants to be proactive or wants to be responsible. And, so what I would say is that we can ask the administrator to kind of move forward with contacting them and letting them know that they can get a quote for additional work inside, right? Additional work with the building and uncover it. Who's the liaison for? You are? So that's perfect because you know all about it. So you can go inside the building with them, look at what's going on and see what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done. But, we want to make sure that, he knows all about that.
Negotiating that, because in the township, when the contractor comes in and does the work that is, who's responsible?
So what's going to happen is like any repair you're looking at, you're going to have somebody that's going to go out there. You're going to have the liaison for the township go out there with them, and they're going to give us an estimate, and then we'll look at the estimate. And we have tools and resources within our purview to be able to look at the estimate and make sure it makes sense and make sure we're doing the right thing. So I think that the first step is looking at the estimate. Agreed? Absolutely. We have never, I don't think that you've ever seen us just dump money at something. Right. No. Yeah, nah. So we're good with that. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever contact, have a number, in Medford, we contacted the Cedar guy out there, Medford Cedar, whatever. And he supplies a lot of cedar for our stuff, our tourism. If you contact companies that are in your organization right around here, a lot of times they're looking for that kind of publicity. The American Legion does. We all love the American Legion.
Absolutely.
You know, if you find companies that are in your facilities, like now with COVID, you put out a message, like one day I said, my new neighbor, he's living on bed. He needs a ski school. I call 2 high school kids. You put it
Wow.
out there. You can find people that have internet that can come out and have it written out and get money.
Well, that's why I brought up Home Depot, because Home Depot is in West Hampton, and, we've been good neighbors, with our police department, et cetera. So, I don't think, from what I know from what I've seen, is not someone that you speak to inside Home Depot, but they would route you to someone that you could call and then make that, tell them exactly what you're looking for, what you can need. But we don't even know what we're looking for until we get the estimate, right? Like, we can say we need 300 sheets of sheetrock, but now we need 600, or we just needed 150, so now we got to take them back. So I think that we can't do anything until we find out exactly what we need, and we approve that to make sense. Like, obviously, we'd get an estimate, and we'd vote on that estimate, or at least have an open conversation about it, right? And then from there, we push that on to, okay, we know we need this, can we get this donated? And then this is what else we need to move forward.
I'm sorry, if anybody would like to make a comment, you're going to need to come up to the microphone or else I won't be able to capture it for the minutes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Has code enforcement went out and did an inspection on the property and said, hey, what codes need to be brought up on the property? and made a recommendation, like, do they have a report? And maybe off of that report, the extra benefit of them going out and getting the work would be a little bit more clearly defined. But I think
Code enforcement isn't going to tell us how much sheet rock or how much.
well, that's an extra added benefit, luxury, but I'm like, to bring the property up, the code, because I know we was talking about the cracks in the floor, on the porch, floor slanted, like, that structural stuff, I think code enforcement might need to say, hey, this need to be done, that need to be done, versus, some of the other, items that they may have.
Code enforcement do that?
Construction again. And maybe that report should be given to you guys, and that way you have a baseline, and then looking at the estimates that they have and saying, hey, this is Lisa's gonna, make sure we're protected, it's up to code and stuff like that.
Sounds good. So our next topic is about the Economic Advisory Committee. This is something else that residents have brought up about, businesses that, we want certain businesses to come to town. And we talked about having a committee that could kind of spearhead that. What are you guys' opinion on that?
Wendy had given me the name of a resident who was interested in helping us for the Economic Advisory Committee. I called her 2 or 3 times, and she never responded, but I do have that number if you want to try to contact her.
You can definitely send it over. I would tell you this, that knowing that I would probably be the one to appoint those positions, probably about a couple months ago, I made some phone calls, and I got 5 commitment, 3 real estate agents. I think that, that falls under their purview, that committed to, that they would be a part of it. And, 2 other people who are in town and in different areas in the town, so they could touch on all points. But obviously, I asked them to hold tight, to wait till the meeting, but I don't have an issue calling or anyone else that wants to be involved. But I do think that we need to have an odd number so that they can vote and have a creative conversation with themselves to be able to bring back to the committee. And then we're going to need to put somebody over top of it to be able to see it. Maybe someone on the committee or someone in the township building, we have to see. Is what my 2 cents would be with that.
I think someone from the Land Development Board should also be on it. I certainly know where we're going, where we've been, where we're growing, and that would be a help.
I think as much as that could make sense, I think it's just as important that whoever is the chair of that committee has a relationship with the Land Development Board, but I can't say that I disagree with that. I think one of the people that I did reach out to is on the Land Development Board.
That's who I'm putting on here.
I said, I think one of the agents that I reached out to is currently on the Land Development Board, so I think that falls into exactly what you were saying. So what do you guys think? Are we okay to move forward with that?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's
Cash Brown again, nonprofit. Have you developed some type of, format for that advisory committee, like how it be, structured and things like that? Because I know you mentioned real estate, huh?
We're working on that from, there's an economic committee that's in a different township that's been pretty successful. And I know that we were looking at, taking the same steps that they have.
Okay.
So that's something that Bob and I have talked about. And we've looked at that and structuring the economic committee that way. But I think that it's important, like a lot of the residents in town wanted to make sure that we're going in the right direction with some businesses that we're bringing in town. I've seen that, we have a Dollar General, which I love Dollar General, but they're like another dollar store. So, you know what I mean? So we want to make sure that, one, that we're inclusive with all businesses that want to come here and that we're putting them in a position to be successful. But we're also getting businesses locally that can be supported by the residents that live here.
Yeah, and I want to add to that too, and I don't know if this is part of that conversation, but maybe if there was a resource site for businesses as well, because I know myself as a local entrepreneur, when I looked at the township, it was hard to find the data around, businesses, township growth and all that type of stuff when I was looking, to where to put a business here. So maybe we can even add, like I said, this may not be part of the workshop, but it's a separate conversation, an item on the website that is focused, for like business and like business resources. Last year, I spoke with a lot of business owners who was talking about, resources that they need and that the township could be helpful with. So, maybe we can put some things up there that we think might be helpful and kind of grow and evolve that, as you're building this, Economic Advisory Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The state also has an economic resource organization that we could use.
Sounds great. Like, if we put that committee together, I think that that's one of the things that, they can look at doing. I think that that's why you want to get those people together in a room. I think that the agents have done a great job, selling homes, getting the right people in our community when they do sell homes. And I think that that's, those are the people that kind of lead us in the right direction. And hey, listen, who knows how long that lasts? And then maybe we get to a point where the agents have done their part and we move some other people in that committee that, have some other commercialized experience that, will be able to help our township, just as we've done with many different platforms and many different organized groups within the township. So everybody's good with that?
Yes.
Okay. So approval of minutes, July 11th, 2023, executive session minutes. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Berkeley.
No.
Carr.
Yes.
Mungo.
Abstain.
Wright.
Yes.
Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-1-1.
August 8th, 2023, regular meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the August 8th minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Berkeley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Mungo.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
We now open the meeting for public comment on agenda items only. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Reminder, this is for comment only. It is not intended as a question and answer period. If you would like a response, please leave your contact information on the podium so that we can respond appropriately. Come on, Diego. I ain't seen you in a while. What you got for us today?
Diego Minacapelli, 211 Bridge Street. Well, let's talk about chickens. So, I told you a little bit about my story, talking about realtors. So 2 years ago, we found this property there in Franco Cas Village. It is 3 acres, and I asked the realtor, one of the things that I want to do is have chickens, more organic and things like that. Yes, you can have whatever you want. Then I called Gene Blair, and he said, nope, you cannot have them. Later on, of course, when I got the property. So one of the things was about that, the chickens. And the reason why I cannot have them is because I'm in zoning R2. The ordinance is only for R1, and then you can have chickens, right? I guess one per acre, and then one per additional half an acre or something like that. So I just came now to see that you are amending the ordinance for chickens to have 4 per acre. But it's also zone R1. So I don't fall into that category either. The village has different zonings. I think it's R2 and R6. Yes, R2 and R6. And some of the property they're 1.5 or 2 acres. And in my case, I think I have 3 acres. So I sent you a letter yesterday, and I sent it to Wendy to see if you will consider this, amending further this proposal that you have, and adding zoning the R1, R2, and R6 into the ordinance. And of course, I put a little bit of benefits, local food production, educational awareness, pest control, waste reduction, community building. If you adopt these new changes, then you have to put some guidelines into limits on the number, which is 4 per acre. No roosters, of course. We need to follow some sanitation standards. We also have to think about the distance from property lines. And I did a little bit of research in other townships around here. This is the minimum, but it says 20 feet from neighbors' windows or doors of homes and 5 feet from property lines. And of course, you need to have like kind of an educational requirement. I'm also a beekeeper, and of course, I had to take a class and get a certificate and everything else. But there's also online requirements that you can take for free, but at least to educate on how to take care of these animals, not just to have them, running free. The letter that I sent you also has some implementation things that you should put into the ordinance, maybe having a permit process so the township can get a little bit of money per coop or something like that. Maybe some inspections and, of course, community outreach, to educate some residents. So, anyway, I send you the letter and with the recommendations, and I hope you can amend this resolution, this ordinance that you're going to do or voting on today, just to add zoning 2 and zoning, R2 and R6 into the changes. That's all I have.
Thank you, Diego.
One more thing.
Yeah.
I also hold a medical degree, and talking about prostate month, awareness is very important, and diagnosing early. And I think there's something missing in that part that you were talking about. It is how to diagnose. Everybody's scared about it. But when we reach an age, after 40, we have to go to the doctor. Usually it's a blood test, and we check the levels of PSA. And then, of course, a digital exam if necessary, but that is something so easy to do than fight cancer. I've been researching cancer for more than 15 years. I wrote with Johnson Medical School, and yes, it is necessary for early diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Easy test, and we prevent a lot of things. Anyway, chickens and prostate.
They go hand in hand.
All right, thank you for listening.
All right, no problem. Anyone else? So we'll now close for public comment. All in favor? Ordinances, this is second reading. Open for public comment. 9-2023, an ordinance amending ordinance 12-1992, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of West Hampton to provide for licensing and regulation of towing and storage services. This is the second reading. Do we have a motion? Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Nope, public comment.
Huh?
Public comment.
Oh, any public comment? I'm sorry.
Mayor, I just have a question. I don't understand. Who is this for? Is this for people who tow township vehicles? Like if I were to call AAA and they say someone to tow my car, if I have a dead car and ran up this road, do they have to pay the township $150 to tow my car? Who does this apply to? Maybe the lawyer.
Mayor. It's the police
No,
department.
Wendy would say.
It's the police department. It's the police department.
You good with that? No.
Police department.
The police department.
No, I'm asking who is a tower that has to pay $150?
If the police department needs someone to tow a vehicle, this is where this ordinance would apply. Any resident that's calling AAA for any services would not have anything applicable to the township.
Okay, I could not hear you. Thank you very much.
Roll call?
Berkeley?
Any public comment?
No, we went through.
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Mungo? Yes. Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
10-2023, an ordinance amending Chapter 88 of the Township Code of West Hampton. I am going to ask for a motion to table this. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Move to table.
You're seconding?
She moved the table.
So somebody
So
else.
are you asking for a motion or are you making a motion?
Asking for a motion.
Move, please.
Yes.
Second? Second.
Discussion, what I would say is, one, we didn't know who the letter came from, but, we continue to listen to the residents. I think that one of the things that we talked about is looking at some of the suggestions that you made, Diego. It kind of makes a lot of sense. And I think that Bob and Committeeman Carr are both looking at, making some changes to try to make it more inclusive. Is my understanding correct?
Yes, with the township administrator. She forwarded the letter to me this morning, and we discussed it and looked at it. The comments in the letter are consistent with other towns that I know in the area that have backyard chicken ordinances. We can easily be incorporated into the township, West Hampton's ordinance.
So, roll call on tabling?
Berkeley?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Longo? Yes. Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Resolution 130-23, payment of vouchers. This resolution approves the payment of bills through September 5th, 2023. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Any discussion?
Who was the second?
Right.
Janelle.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Berkeley?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Longo? Yes. Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Consent agenda resolutions. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted with one single motion. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by the certification of availability of funds. Any items requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Berkeley move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Berkeley?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Longo? Yes. Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
We now open the meeting for public comment. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Reminder, this is for comment only. It is not intended as a question-answer period. If you would like a response, please leave your contact information on the podium so that we can respond appropriately.
Hello, Desiree Cancella, 45 Dover Road. I wanted to ask the committee to specifically put on the agenda the homeless shelter of the county and whatever West Hampton's plan or view on that pertaining to safety and what West Hampton's going to do. I know it's a county facility, and that is their building, but since it is within close distance of the school as well as Tarnsfield in the local area, I wanted to know what West Hampton's position was on basically the burden of providing safety that's going to be disproportionately put on West Hampton and the police department. So when that comes up, I just would like that to have a plan so that the town and the West Hampton would be able to come here and let the residents know what's going on.
1,000%.
Do I need to leave, is that okay, or do I need to leave us here to get an answer?
I can actually comment on that at the end.
Okay.
I will. And I'm available at the end as well.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
I'm sorry, if you would like to leave an email address or telephone number, I can respond to you if I have an answer.
Oh, that's great, thank you.
Also about the homeless shelter. There's a lot of concerns. We live on Dover. They're at the Wawa, as you know. They sleep behind the Dollar General, and they go away now. They sleep in that canal. Kids are coming off the school bus. A lot of kids are home alone. A lot of concerns. Even in my neighborhood, they're licking poles. They're almost getting hit by cars. They're wandering around. They're coming from our counseling center over by Mount Holly, coming to the Wawa, and then roaming through our neighborhoods. A lot of concern. Staring us down and everything else. Number two Sundays ago, I was away, but we had a wild party as our police department. I went to the police station.
I missed it.
Scene on, I believe it was East Peddington, maybe 385 he spent it, I'm not sure of the address, but the police were there. Evidently, it's being used as a fundraiser home and a party house. The noise was horrible until 10 o'clock. They do know the noise ordinance. The DJ said 10 o'clock over, but there was evidently outside drinking. This is all hearsay to me. I was not home. But however, Sunday, we had it again. The person had a realtor fundraiser for businesses to come out. A lot of noise, a lot of screaming, and a lot of hollering. It was also a fundraiser. He has a website. He's posting this. Sundays must be his day. I don't know if there's going to be other days. I did go to the police station. I talked to Officer Sweeney, and I told him that it was posted. I shared the post with him for this Sunday that had just passed. If it's going to be a routine, I don't know why the people that live around here are not here unless they're afraid, because a lot of them are older that live in Holly Hills. But I heard that they were all over the people's yards. They were running up and down the streets. There was cars from Philly everywhere. I have a lot of people that are moving in from Philly, trying to get away from the things that are happening in Florida. A lot of young people. They're concerned. They came to me. I didn't even get my trailer in my driveway, that they were. They know I come to these. I don't have a problem speaking. I have known Nancy for a long time. I don't have any problem. I love my neighborhood. I want to keep loving my neighborhood. What I'm seeing happening to our West Hampton is not being nice. I mean, we got a Dollar General and a Family Dollar coming in. I got homeless shelter. It's just starting to go downhill on our end of West Hampton. And I'm not liking it. You have a building behind, it used to be Roebling Bank. I believe it's still empty. I don't know why they can't put a homeless shelter over there. There's nothing over there. You know, there's a lot, I believe it's still empty. It might not be. But it's by Barney's Kennel, over in that area. There used to be a vacant building. I don't know if it's still vacant or not. But we need to find some place where these people won't be roaming around our neighborhoods, and then we don't have Airbnbs coming in like Bolingbroke does. I know a lot of people in Bolingbroke that have Airbnb parties, and they're frustrated, and their township is trying to fix that too. I love my police department. I want gun coming at them. You know, I don't want violence in our neighborhoods. I've lived through that in West Hampton. We had a shooting behind the wall years ago. You know, we've been here, done this, and I've been here a long time, and I don't want to have to move. I'm hoping I can live here whole. But the way it's going, I'm not feeling safe here.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hey, sir.
My name is Vincent Perot. I've been a resident since '85. I live in Rolling Hills. We have parking lots throughout the development. I live at 204 South Hill Drive. The kids have a playground down the street. They put a basketball court in the parking lot where people park their cars. And then they proceeded to start playing football in the parking lot and start hitting people's cars. Now, then people don't want to park in the parking lot. They're double parking in their driveways now, which she said, it's an ordinance, you can't block the sidewalk. So, you know, I'm retired. I'm not going to get in these kids' face, but this is. And then I went to the police department. There's no ordinance to say they can't put a portable basketball court up in the lot, but they excuse me. And also, there's a white vehicle that I went to the police department about. It's been sitting there for months, and the policeman checked it, and he said that the tags are okay. But how long do they have to sit before they're considered abandoned or whatever, you know? So, like I said, I'm a first-time resident here. I've been here at '85 when the houses were built. Okay, and you know, things come and go through the parking lot. I've addressed it with the police department. They've handled it. Okay, but this one, okay, when they're playing football and they're hitting people's cars, and then they have to move their cars out of the parking lot to park in their driveways, and then they block the sidewalk. So that ain't cool. That's not that you know. So I have no idea if you can put signs saying that, you know, it's only, we have a huge ball field down the street, basketball court, everything. Why can't they play it where it's supposed to be? So, and I hardly ever come to these meetings, like I said, but I'm gonna have to start coming to every meeting, because I'm not feeling where West Hampton's heading. I'm not feeling it, and, because I worked 35 years for Verizon in Philadelphia, every neighborhood, and I didn't want to retire here to have all this BS come towards that neighborhood, or any neighborhood in West Hampton. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Good evening.
Tanya D. Ray, 20 West Windway. I have a few concerns, but I want to keep it to 3 minutes. The first one is, in the township of West Hampton, in Spring Meadows, there are tennis courts, and they are really in ruin. Like, the net is falling down. It's just really in bad shape. So I'm just, don't know if there is someone who maybe can help me do something about that. I haven't played tennis in years. I'm really bad at that. And I thought maybe I'd try pickleball, but I don't think I'm going to be much better. But can we do something maybe to liven it up? Maybe make it a pickleball. Maybe we could even have like some tournaments there or something. I know they use the softball field there, or at least they have in the past. I just haven't seen much activity over there since COVID. And now I'm concerned that it's just really starting to go downhill. And I'm hearing a theme here with things going downhill. And I don't like that. I've lived there since 1996. And I bought that home brand new. And I would like to see what I used to see in West Hampton, which was a lot of unity. I used to hold community cleanup. All of our children are grown now and all on their own. But there's another generation, so maybe I can start doing that again, and I don't mind that. But I would hope that I can get a little community support in what I'm trying to do. The second thing is I'm seeing a variety of beautiful colors of roofs and things. We do have deed restrictions that say your roof should be this color, your fence should be board on board, your fence shouldn't be more than 6 feet high. Like, we have deeds and restrictions, but I'm not seeing anyone from the township doing anything when those things aren't done. So I recently applied for a permit for a fence. Everything is so wrong there that if I did mine right, it would look wrong. So it's kind of like I'm trying to do things the right way, but if I do it the right way, it's just going to look so awkward because nobody else's fence is at the setback that it's supposed to be, or no one else is keeping their fence stained and clean. And another thing I'm noticing is that, the police used to give tickets if you park in the opposite direction on the street. There's not much parking there. And now we have cars parked. One day it was 4 cars parked in the opposite direction. So you had to have driven on the wrong side of the street to park in that direction. Those things, these people, and the police will ride right by all 4 cars. We need those people ticketed. That's a revenue generator, quite frankly. Just come through and ticket all the cars parked wrong. So I just think there's certain things that I'm seeing that are making me concerned about the neighborhood, and I would love for someone from the township to come out and just take a look and see what's happening, and let's right some of the wrongs. That's all I have. Thank you.
What development is this?
Spring Meadow.
Spring Meadows.
Spring Meadows, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? So we will now close for public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Dates to remember, next Township Committee meeting will be September 19th at 7 p.m. Historic Commission is September 27th at 7 p.m. Land Development Board meeting will be at September 6th at 7 p.m. Recreation Committee meeting will be September 13th at 7 p.m. Timbuktu Day is changed. It looks to be September 30th. The time will be announced. And Fire Prevention Open House is October the 12th at 6 p.m. Do we have any committee liaison reports or comments?
School started this week. I do feel bad for the kids, it's been so hot, but, what? I just want to respond to the comment about the homeless shelter. I've been to the county meetings. I've written Director Felicia Hopkins twice to ask questions. The first time she wrote back and said, no, we really haven't done anything, and there's no plans, but we will come to West Hampton. And the second time I wrote to her, she said, we'll discuss it later. It just seems like they're hiding everything from us, and it's very frustrating. And twice when I've gone to meetings, and I knew that they were doing this homeless shelter, I brought up the point that West Hampton, yes, it's in West Hampton, but that whole area from Irick Road to 541 on that side of the street is owned by the county. And I said, we do police, we do fire, we do EMTs and ambulances, and you don't pay taxes. And I said, I wish there was some way that you could do something to pay us back for all the services. And I said, now that we're going to have another development come, we're going to need more for our own township. And I said, when you have a homeless shelter, it seems like there's going to be a lot more medical needs. And they'll probably need more police needs. And I said, it would be nice to know that instead of asking our police, that the sheriff's department would have someone take care of that shelter to take care of that needs. And if we have an ambulance that comes to you, that you would reimburse us for it. And they didn't like my comments, but too bad. Thank you.
Just wanted to say congratulations to Patrolman Rios. We appreciate your service to West Hampton. We hope you make a career here. I, for one, am in support of helping renovate the building on Rancocas Road that the American Legion leases from us, and we have a shared interest in. This is a group that advocates patriotism selflessly, and we have an opportunity to help them in the place they operate out of, and I'm in full support of that, our homegrown veterans here in West Hampton. We did approve the playground getting redone in Spring Meadows. That's coming. What's going on with that?
Demolished.
Demolished, but we're still waiting on the equipment to come?
We have the equipment. We are now just waiting for the installation from the company we bought the equipment from.
Yeah. Great. Lastly, I think I understand people's concerns about the emergency homeless shelter. It is not a shelter where people will live for long term. And again, it's an idea. There is nothing solid that we have right now. We've also been interfacing with Felicia Hobson, Commissioner Hobson. Mayor Henley's been taking point on that and trying to get some answers and an idea of what's going on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to congratulate Officer Dylan Raylos as well. Congratulations and welcome aboard. I too do support the American Legion. I spoke very briefly during our workshop, but yes, I support us funding where we can without it being a deficit to the township. So, and I want to thank the residents for coming out and voicing your concerns. I live directly behind the firehouse, right on Brighton Road. So I, have the same concerns that you do. We, again, are all residents here and we see the same things, but obviously living that close to the Wawa and, visiting that Wawa almost daily, we see the same things. And working with our police department, I feel confident that, I still feel confident, safe and safe in my neighborhood. And I hope that, moving forward, we will all feel that way as well. Just knowing the community that we have to take care of us here. So I I have confidence in everybody, so thank you.
I would like to say congratulations to Officer Reyes, and just thank you for the residents for coming out. I'm a newbie, kind of, sort of, to West Hampton. I frequently visit the Wawa. I have seen and some of your concerns, and you know, sometimes it's troubling. I've seen children that have been there, and they're a little bit scared when they want to run in and get something. I've had seen parents walk their children inside the Wawa, so I do understand your concerns, and I do believe, just as Jamie stated, by working with the police department, that, you know, we can get these things rectified and hopefully get some answers to some of your concerns.
Anyone else? Guess there is no one else but me. One, I want to congratulate the patrolmen. Listen, adding another police officer is never a bad thing, especially with some of the concerns we have here. I think that you guys can see these last 3 or 4 months, we've added probably as many police officers as we ever had. And that's, again, to kind of help be proactive against the new housing development, and then, you know, some different things that are going on in town that you guys have talked about. Homeless shelter. I literally got a call today from the county, trying to schedule a time to come out to discuss that. Something that, you know, we've asked and not really budged on, to be able to explain exactly if they're going to build it's not called a homeless shelter, it's called an emergency shelter, is what they're saying. Like, you call it what you want. I have to say emergency shelter, right? My understanding from a quick conversation was that they feel like this would help with what we're seeing with the Wawa, what we're seeing with people living in the woods and with people behind the Dollar Tree, etc. I don't know how that's going to be, but these are questions that we could ask, and what their plans are, and how they think is going to work, or if they're really going to build an emergency shelter and what that looks like. But I do know that they're trying to schedule a date. We talked about it today. We're going to schedule it on a Monday. I said we have meetings on a Tuesday. Okay, we'll get back to you with the time. So that's kind of the scenario. This is the second call that we've had. One was going to be at the end of October, and today they talked about in November. So we'll look at whatever they're going to call back to schedule a time. But I also want to make sure that we give everyone plenty of time to be able to come out and to be able to voice their opinion and to be able to be here. Not something that's going to be quick. Something that we can actually express our concerns and get some answers, either to make us feel better or let them hear our concerns and maybe come back with something that's a little bit better for what our concerns are. Parking lot. I had a resident calling me for the last 3 weeks about the parking lot, just about cars being over there. And that's probably one of the things that Steve looked at before he left. He said, I know he sent someone out. And we gotta be, you know, I'll say what I said. Like, we talked about tickets, and I said, well, I would rather, and I'm not a police officer, I can't tell police officers what to do, and would never try, but to look at some warnings first, and then follow them up with tickets. Even with the cars parked in different ways, I would ask that we give warnings first, because most of these people are people that we live with, that are in our town. So they're also paying taxes. They're also paying the other things that come with the town, and then we double down and charge them tickets for something that there's no form of ignorance of the law, but for something they're going to say they don't know about, and then they come in here and have a different tune. So I think that's something, if you want, that we could take a look at. To see, you know, where the concern is, but, you know, you guys do what you see fit to be able to help the resident that came out tonight, and looking at that situation, and looking at the parking lot situation with the kids playing in there. I mean, that's tough, because see, what happens is that the kids don't play in there, and then the residents complain because people are parking boats in there and parking different vehicles in there, right? So now we get those vehicles out of there, and now the kids are playing basketball. See what I mean? Like, it's hard, because it's not a win, right? It's either going to be, it's empty enough for kids to play, or you're going to have some vehicles in there you don't want. So, I mean, that part, we pay Wendy to figure out. I had to say it because, okay. So, we'll try to figure it out and get an idea of what we're gonna do. Tennis courts, I live in Spring Meadows. I don't know that I've ever seen a tennis court. I know that, but I've also never played tennis. But I know that one of the things that we looked at was the playground that we're putting in. And I think they're also redoing that basketball court, if I'm not mistaken, right? That's something that we kind of tried to lump in.
You mean the tennis courts?
Hmm?
The tennis courts?
The basketball courts. I know they were redoing the basketball. What are they redoing over at Spring Meadows besides the?
Right now, we're just focused on the playground equipment. We have to take it piece by piece because refinishing courts like that is very expensive, as you know from the last project.
Correct. But did we, I know at one point we talked about looping that in with the playground. Did that ever happen?
Not the same person to be able to do the job.
Okay. But we're trying, right? This is something that, well, how long have I been calling you, Wendy, about the playground? Like, I've been calling about the playground, like, what are we doing playground? What are we doing playground? What are we doing playground? But it took time for us to get the parts in, et cetera, but that may be the next step. And I'll say why I would want that to be the next step is because the development across the street, they don't have playgrounds or basketball courts for those kids. So what's going to happen is those kids are going to come over to Spring Meadows to play, which I'm okay with, but we got to make sure that we have ample room to be able to do so. And the kids from the Willows, I've seen kids from the Willows come over and play at Spring Meadows as well. So I would ask to be patient with us, but as you can see, it takes a little bit of time, but we do have a focus on trying to get some things done. The fences, that's another thing. We just talked about the fences. We had an open discussion about the fences a month ago? Last meeting, a month ago, because we have, there's a D restriction for board on board. A lot of the residents want vinyl. We can't break the D restriction, right? But what did we say we could do? We can't break the D restriction, but
There is an ordinance in place that requires where there's not a deed restriction for there to be board-on-board and wood-like structure. So it essentially does prohibit the use of vinyl. That's only in the neighborhoods where there is no homeowners association or any deed restriction. Where there is a homeowners association or a deed restriction, the rules of the homeowners association or the deed control. So what the township can do is to amend the existing ordinance that requires the board-on-board.
So that's what we were talking about last month. So again, we appreciate you coming, and make sure you come next time too. We like to see residents come to ask questions so that we know what to address, but we're trying to address that as well. What am I saying about the fence?
Mayor, may I? You did ask that we put this on for another open public discussion, another workshop at another time. So that is on the agenda for one of the upcoming meetings.
And that's what I almost forgot to say. The different colored doors and the different roofs, we can't really police that. Like when they get it done, the only thing that can be done is a civil suit, if I'm not mistaken, right, can go after a neighbor to say this isn't something in a D restriction, because a D restriction doesn't affect the township. Is that correct? We just talked about this with Deerwood last week. Not supposed to, but who am I to say no? I agree. Go ahead.
Ma'am,
I don't got the grizzly gavel.
If you are going to speak, can you come up to the microphone so...
The roof situation, I know because I dealt with it since during COVID, there was a supply chain issue, as you all know. I couldn't get the color that I was supposed to get, but I wanted my roof done. So I'm not even in compliance yet.
You done told on yourself.
I had no choice. I needed a new roof, and I wasn't going to wait until the supply chain thing, that took a while. So mine is not even the right color. And I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't mind some creativity. It's the fences. Like, the fences, a lot of them are not board on board. So even though we have a deed restriction that says board on board,
It's the same thing. Like, we can't, like, it's something that, it's a civil suit.
but I want to break that rule too, because I don't like the board on board.
Listen, don't do it on record, like,
I'm on record.
I don't want to be roped into this, like, yeah, well, we can't do nothing about that. Yeah.
You can keep it there. I'm breaking all the rules. If I don't break the rule, then I'm going to stand out as, like, if my setback is literally 25, I'm going to look like the wrong house on the block. I mean, I just don't know what else to do at this point.
I hear you.
I parked the right way.
I hear you.
She's parked the right way. You won't get a ticket.
So you won't get the warning.
You won't get the warning.
With that being said, we are now going to go executive session resolution number 9/5/2023, resolution authorizing the township committee and support staff to meet in private session and authorizing the exclusion of the public from that portion of the meeting, dealing with specific issues requiring non-public discussions, attorney-client privilege personnel. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Roll call.
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
Nancy. Roll call?
Berkeley?
Yes?
Carr? Mungo?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.